It wasn't a lack of discipline. It wasn't a failure of budgeting. It wasn't even a shortage of ambition. It was the merciless friction of gravity. The arithmetic is merciless. To save your first $1,000, you must trade time for money. You are selling labor. But in a system designed to inflate, the value of labor is under constant assault. Every hour you work, the currency you earn is being diluted by new issuance. You are running up a down escalator. This is not a moral failing. It is a structural reality. However, once you break that threshold, once you secure that initial capital, the physics change. The next $10,000 behave differently because now money is working for you. You have moved from linear addition to exponential compounding. You have crossed the line from labor to capitalist. The pattern is unmistakable. History shows us exactly why that first step is the hardest. It reveals a recurring cycle where the initial accumulation of wealth is deliberately suppressed by the state as need to consume. We see this clearly in the Roman Empire. Under the reign of Nero, and accelerating into the crisis of the 3rd century, the pattern emerged. Rome had reached peak dominance, but the cost of maintaining the legions and the bureaucracy became unsustainable. The emperors faced a choice: cut spending or debase the currency. The incentive is always to debase. Nero began by reducing the silver purity of the denarius for the average Roman soldier or baker. Saving the first 1,000 denarii became a mathematical impossibility. The coins they hoarded held less silver every year. Their labor was being stolen retroactively. Inflation soared. The cost of wheat and land skyrocketed. Those who already owned land, the patrician class, saw their nominal wealth explode. The momentum was on their side. But the plebeian trying to save his first coin found that the finish line kept moving away. The middle class was priced out. Social fracture followed. The soldier demanded higher pay just to stand still. The empire crumbled not from invasion, but from the inability of the common man to accumulate capital. Just like the Roman soldier, the citizens of the Weimar Republic faced the same wall. Germany in 1914 abandoned the gold standard to finance the war. By 1923, the bill came due. The government chose the monetary shortcut. They printed marks to pay striking workers in the Ruhr and to service foreign reparations. The velocity of money accelerated. For a young clerk in Berlin trying to save his first 1,000 marks, the task was futile. Prices doubled every few days. The friction was absolute. Labor was worthless. However, for the industrialists who owned factories and owed debts in fixed marks, the inflation was a windfall. Their debts were wiped out. Their assets were priced instantly in the new inflated currency. Hugo Stinnes, the industrialist, bought up immense swathes of German industry because he had momentum. He had assets. The clerk had only labor, and labor cannot outrun a printing press. The middle class was liquidated. The society collapsed into extremism, just like the Weimar clerk. The people of Venezuela walked this path in the modern era, from 2013 onward. The oil-rich nation faced a collapse in revenue and a bloated social state. The government of Maduro chose the only tool left. They printed the bolivar into oblivion. Estimates range, but inflation hit millions of percent. Think about what that means. A university professor trying to save the equivalent of $1,000 in local currencies saw his life savings vanish in an afternoon. The hurdle was insurmountable. Yet, those who had already crossed the threshold, those who held dollars, real estate in Miami, or gold, were protected. The divide was not between smart and dumb. It was between those with capital momentum and those trapped in labor. The flight into hard assets left the shelves empty and the streets full of worthless paper. The pattern repeats in 7 distinct stages. Stage 1 is sound money, where saving is linear and rewards discipline. Stage 2 is the expansion of the state, where social costs outpace tax revenue. Stage 3 is the decision to debase the currency rather than cut promises. Introducing the first friction. To the saver, Stage 4 is the onset of inflation, where the cost of living rises faster than wages, making that first $1,000 elusive. Stage 5 is the flight to real assets, where the wealthy detach from the broader economy. Stage 6 is the crack-up boom, where faith in the currency evaporates entirely. Stage 7 is the reset, where a new unit of account is established, usually wiping out the remaining savers who failed to convert to assets. Just like Venezuela, current data suggests the Western world is deep within this cycle. The difficulty you face in saving that first $1,000 is not accidental. It is the result of negative real interest rates. The bank pays you nearly nothing, while the cost of food, energy, and housing rises. The incentive structure penalizes cash and rewards debt. When you try to save that first block of capital, you are fighting the entire monetary policy of the central banks, which requires inflation to burn away sovereign debt. However, once you push past this friction, the dynamic inverts. The next $10,000 is easier because you are no longer just a laborer. You begin to deploy capital into assets that benefit from the very inflation that hurt you as a saver. Equities, real estate, and commodities tend to rise as the currency falls. The wind is now at your back. The system that punishes the holder of cash rewards the holder of assets. Some economic historians note that wage growth can eventually catch up to inflation, allowing the saver to recover. They argue that productivity gains lower costs, but the arithmetic is merciless. Asset prices invariably inflate faster than wages during periods of monetary expansion. The house price moves by $50,000 while a wage moves by $2,000. The gap widens. The rational move is to acquire the first viable unit of capital. By any means necessary extreme austerity, side income, sale of possessions to escape the gravity well of labor-only income. The endgame approaches in a fixed order. First, we see controlled decline, where the currency loses value slowly, bleeding the saver to subsidize the debtor. This is the current state. Next comes chaotic collapse, where the bond market rebels and yields spike, forcing the central bank to intervene with massive liquidity, triggering rapid inflation. Finally, the reset and restructure, where the currency is redenominated or pegged to a hard asset to restore confidence. In the case of Weimar, it was the Rentenmark. In Rome, it was the gold solidus of Constantine.